another episode of the Monday Morning Learning Podcast. Very pleased to have Rahul as part of my podcast today. Rahul, warm welcome to you. Any
Thank you,
welcome
Ravi.
words? Any welcome words before we start off with your introduction to the audience?
Yeah. Welcome words. Looking forward to sharing and learning from this episode.
Excellent. Sure. Definitely, Rahul. Thank you. So, coming to Rahul Agarwal, Rahul believes in the boundless potential of the human spirit and our capacity to create profound impact. Now, as a leadership development facilitator and executive coach, his mission is to help you align with your purpose, unlock your full potential, and inspire positive change in your organization and beyond. Rahul collaborates with executives and leaders to cut through the noise and address the core of the agenda. Embracing who you are today, he challenges you to live up to the potential you possess for tomorrow. When leaders tap into their true capabilities, they not only elevate themselves, but also those around them. And if you're ready to scale your leadership, transition into a new role, or grow your organization, Rahul says, let's work together to make the transformation happen. Now, he specializes in guiding leaders through transitions, fostering personal and professional growth, and thus enabling teams to reach new heights. With over 600 hours of coaching and more than 10,000 hours of program facilitation, Rahul has helped leaders across industries elevate their leadership and impact. He's done his MBA in HR at the Delhi School of Economics and is an alumni of IIT Delhi. He's a member of the International Coaching Federation ICF, a vertical mindset indicator, 5OB practitioner, and has over 30 certifications to his credit. Rahul, that's the intro for you.
Thank you, Ravi. Sometimes it is like, is it really me? One has to wonder that you're talking about.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, at the Monday Morning Learning Podcast, we focus on uncovering transformative leadership insights, fostering continuous learning, and exploring the intersection of personal and professional growth. And through these engaging conversations, we aim to inspire leaders, entrepreneurs, and professionals to unlock their potential, drive meaningful change, and integrate holistic success into their journey. So, as we discussed, Rahul, there are three themes for today's podcast. One is on leadership transformation from coaching to impact. Second is on building future-ready organizations through learning and development. And finally, holistic leadership, integrating work, life, and purpose. So, shooting my first question to you, this will be on the psychology of leadership growth. According to you, Rahul, how can leaders cultivate self-awareness and emotional intelligence to navigate the evolving demands of leadership roles effectively?
Sure, Ravi. Thank you. Firstly, thank you for providing this opportunity and happy to connect with our listeners and anybody who's interested in learning from uh, what we bring forth together today.
Sure.
So, to answer your question, so my belief is that there is immense potential that we have within us. And as it is said in one of the quotes by Confucius, that we have all the answers within. So it's a question of bringing that silence to what's uh, within us for that to surface. And uh, that can happen only when we take a step back from the everyday busy life and have certain practices which allow us to bring that quietness within. And it was always said that we have that wisdom within, we have that voice within which is telling us something. But I think in the increasing cacophony and noise that we have around us today, we end up losing that voice and not being able to hear that voice.
Hmm.
So when we say that how can leaders cultivate self-awareness and emotional intelligence, so my first port of call is going to be that we take a step back, bring quietness within, and listen to what is that wisdom within us telling us.
Right.
There's lots which we can learn from what that wisdom is telling us.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I would say that is the fundamental must. Now, going beyond that, of course, there are so many things that come up in today's time. How can we reach out to a core set of stakeholders to be able to enhance our self-awareness?
Hmm.
Because yes, while that voice within is extremely important, at the same time, I cannot see myself in certain situations when I'm behaving in certain ways. So,
Yeah.
for example, and this is my favorite example that I quote often, I can't see myself driving on the road. While we see other people and we have the choicest
Mm.
remarks and comments for other people, but I don't know how, I just don't see myself when I drive when I'm driving.
Right.
So, have I braked suddenly? Have I cut somebody off suddenly? I don't get to see that. I don't get to realize that, barring very few instances.
Mm.
The same is at other places in life, whether at work or other relationships. How is it that we can take inputs, take feedback from our stakeholders to be able to realize what's really going on? How is my behavior landing with other people?
Absolutely.
What's the impact that I'm creating around?
Yeah. Absolutely, Rahul. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think moving on to navigating career transitions with confidence, what are the kind of strategies leaders can employ to adapt and thrive during periods of organizational transition, particularly when shifts in leadership influence priorities, culture, and ways of working?
Thanks, Ravi. This is quite a pertinent question in today's time when we see so much of change, uncertainty, and there's a lot of what should I say, kind of tension, anxiety suspended in the air with whatever is going on around the world today,
Yeah.
right from wars to politics and much more. So I won't go there in terms of what's happening,
Sure.
but in terms of navigating career transitions, uh, I think the first and foremost is to have a core belief
Mm.
within oneself. Starting from a point of that core belief that I am good, I am capable, I am where I am because of certain things that I bring with me.
Right.
It's important to start from that point,
Sure.
because these periods of transition, uncertainty do bring in a certain element of doubt, a certain element of uh, instability and really what's going on. And
Mm.
hence, that doubt may creep in. Even if not by self, it might be maybe from other people that there is that doubt coming in.
Yeah.
So, starting from self belief, which is something that's also connected to what you asked in the question,
Yes.
how do we manage that transition with confidence?
Yeah.
The second dimension would be bringing more and more clarity to oneself and the people around,
Right.
because things are emergent in nature. Every day something new emerges and changes,
Mm.
and especially as we are looking at the political dynamics today, things are changing really fast.
Yeah.
Hence, how are we bringing clarity to what's really going on, how it impacts us
Right.
as an organization and to oneself as a leader, then, because we are operating within that ecosystem or ecosystem of systems,
Right.
which is where that clarity helps us to know what is to be done and what is to be done differently.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, when we talk about specifically career transitions within that,
Mm.
it's going to be important to know uh, what the transition is really about,
Yeah.
and that change, how does it amalgamate different aspects of human life today. And so it's not going to be limited to just my own role, my own career. It's also going to be about the organizational system that one belongs to, the
Hmm.
larger ecosystem that one is a part of, and all of that informs the transition that one is going through. So hence, those changes and um, those dynamic systems that one is a part of, how
Hmm.
does one stay in tune with those when looking at the transitions?
Absolutely. Perfect, Rahul. Thank you for that. I think moving on to building future-ready organizations through learning and development, and the sub-theme is about leadership development as a strategic imperative. How can organizations design leadership development programs that align with strategic objectives and effectively support employees during periods of transition and change?
Yeah, great question. This is really core to my heart, Ravi, because my personal belief is that if there is central to any organization, something that is central to any organization's success, it is really about the leadership within an organization. And when we say leadership, we understand this is different from being a leader. We collectively bring forth leadership to happen within an organization when we come together
Hmm.
as a group and from a group to a team of people.
Yeah.
So, um, So to answer this question, one is of course looking at the evolving and emerging business strategy for the organization. Where is the organization really headed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and periodically is the organization re-examining, revisiting its purpose? Why does it exist in today's time? What's the impact that it is trying to create for its stakeholders out there?
Right.
And it could be customers, it could be the wider society, partners who enable the business to succeed,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, it could be the employees within the organization. Now, keeping all of that in mind, then uh, what are some of the imperatives the uh, that are there for the organization
Mm-hmm.
to be able to make the purpose come alive. When
Yeah.
we talk about strategic objectives, they are in the service of that purpose to be lived by the organization.
Yeah.
What's going to enable that? How is it changing from how it was earlier?
Mm-hmm.
And with those changes, then what is it that the leaders need to do differently to make things happen? And I'll
Yeah.
give an example in terms of, I mean, there are so many
Mm-hmm.
such projects which I have undertaken over the last decade or more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, an organization going through a change, which is where the complete strategy of the organization as to how it's going to do its business itself had was undergoing a change.
Right.
Now, when that is happening, then leaders need to be aligned to how things are going to be done differently. What is it that they need to do differently
Yeah.
to make that strategy work and for it to lead to success?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the light of that, then the leadership development intervention that they go through has to bring forth those skills, those capabilities, and much more importantly, those mindsets
Mm-hmm.
which would help them to execute and bring forth those behaviors which are in alignment with what the strategy is supposed to deliver. So,
Right.
let's say if an organization is moving from, um, let's say, it is moving from uh, very function driven specialized kind of work to a more collaborative nature of working.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unless and until an example is set by the functional heads across the organization,
Yeah.
it is not going to get cascaded to other levels in the organization.
Yes.
So it's both a mindset shift and as well as skills. The mindset is about that, yeah, together we succeed. Otherwise, functional specializations don't mean anything anymore. We do bring in our expertise together, but
Mm-hmm.
unless and until we bring it together, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And then talking from again a live experience of a project that we had undertaken along these lines,
Mm-hmm.
i- the leaders' behaviors had to be changed really big time. Otherwise, this entire change in the business strategy would have fallen flat.
Right.
So, yeah, I think this is what I would have to say
Sure.
to this question.
Sure. Sure, Rahul. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think moving to one of the most exciting questions for this podcast. This is on leadership insights from martial arts. Now, I know your upcoming book explores the connection between martial arts and leadership, right? Very unique. Can you
Yeah.
please share key lessons from the book that modern leaders can apply to build one, resilience, two, focus, three, adaptability in the organizations, Rahul?
Thank you, Ravi. This is again very close to my heart. Having been a practitioner of karate for 31 years, been a teacher for 23, and then, of course, bringing forth my experience in the leadership development and the consulting space
Mhm.
together with the other side.
Sure.
So, so the book and the insights within the book are all about practices that enable martial artists to be able to bring forth many of those behaviors and many of those dimensions to the other aspects of their life, and specifically to leadership itself, and which is where the topic and the title of the book, the subject of the book is all about integrating these two dimensions, leadership and martial arts.
Right.
And I'll share a couple of practices. And why am I talking about practices is because, yes, there are all those competencies, theories, models, leadership qualities, and much more that typically are talked about.
Mhm.
But then, how does one inculcate those? How does one really ensure that those happen in real time? And
Mhm.
hence these practices. So, what I earlier talked about, that having a you know quietness within, bringing that silence within is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we call karate also as a moving meditation,
Yeah.
because when we are in the middle of our practice, everything else does not, nothing else really exists. Everything else has gone off.
Right.
So I've had in my class, and these are the stories that I talk about in the book. I've had my in my class uh, professionals from high pressure kind of this thing environments,
Mm-hmm.
pilots, lawyers, and advocates from the Supreme Court to High Court and others, and of course many other professions. And each one of them, they talk about the same experience, that when they are in the class for that time period, nothing else exists. Their mind is gone completely blank. They're completely focused, and by the end of the class, they are so refreshed, and there is that silence which appears within.
Mm-hmm.
All the stress, pressure, this, that, everything which was going up and down maybe on a given day,
Mm-hmm.
it's just being taken off. Now,
Yeah.
when that happens, it enables them to think much more clearly, which
Absolutely.
is a very fundamental must for any leader. How
Mm.
clearly are they able to think at any given point in time? So that's one of the examples.
Sure.
Second is I talk about a 360-degree view.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yes, it is talked about in 360-degree feedback. It is talked about in maybe when you're looking at certain situations, bring in multiple perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you make it a practice again? So many of the techniques that we practice in karate,
Mm-hmm.
they require us to move in multiple directions,
Right. Yeah.
as if you are attacking or defending against an opponent or a set of opponents from those multiple directions.
Right.
Now, when you do that, your mind is attuned automatically to be looking into multiple directions
Mm.
uh, over a couple of minutes itself. And then this is something that you train with over and over and over,
Yes.
which attunes you into, again, being open to those different perspectives and different ways, different angles,
Right.
which may come up in a given situation.
Sure.
Uh, Now, like I said, it's all about training the mind, it's all about training the body,
Mm-hmm.
and many of the leadership practices, uh, like we say today, they need to be embodied as well. It's not just enough to be knowing them. We need to
Yes.
be having them within us completely.
Yeah.
So it's not just enough to say that, oh, we should have 360-degree feedback,
Mm.
but how do you orient your mind towards accepting and
Mm.
also and also making it happen in a given situation? When you have these kind of practices, they make you be able to do that. And maybe a
Absolutely.
last one that I'll just talk about briefly is, since we're talking a lot about transitions and change,
Yeah.
a third one is that while in martial arts training, we train on the same technique, same combinations for years and years, so that it
Mm.
becomes muscle memory for us. We don't even have to think before executing it.
Mm-hmm.
But there comes a time when we disrupt that and we change either the direction, or from the left to the right side, or the other way around, or we do it the completely different way.
You're right.
If we're turning clockwise, we turn anti-clockwise.
Yeah.
Now, what does that do is, while we have established muscle memory in doing things one way,
Mm-hmm.
it starts making us to think in other ways as well.
Yeah.
So there is an inherent flexibility that kind of comes in the way of thinking itself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when we talk about, oh, the increasing pace of change, there's so much of change happening today, and
Mm.
change means both the system side of change, which is more like the tangible part of change, and then there is the transition, which is more about how do we experience change emotionally
Yes.
and psychologically.
Yeah.
Now that side is what I'm talking about. We get much more tuned into that. Okay, our karate training uh, has allowed us to not get set in certain ways of doing things, into a certain mindset itself, and it
Mm.
is making us change. Even after years of training, it is making us change. It
Right.
is making us do things in certain different ways.
Mm.
And that mindset then comes back to leadership as well, that, okay, we'll keep experimenting, we'll keep doing micro level changes to how we are doing things,
Mm.
so that when a big change comes in,
Yeah.
we are not really completely stumped as to, oh, now what should we do?
Absolutely.
So
Thank you.
those are three, and there are so many more that I think we can bring forth from the book.
Sure. This is available on Amazon, I guess, for sure, right?
It's going to be launched very soon,
Okay,
and yes, it's going to be available on Amazon.
perfect, perfect. I think I'll include the link once this is on Amazon so that our listeners also can buy the book, Rahul.
Yeah, that'll be wonderful. Thank
Great,
you, Ravi.
great. So moving on to integrating work, life, and purpose, Rahul. Considering the increasing demands on corporate leaders, what practical approaches can be adopted to achieve a harmonious balance between professional responsibilities and personal well-being, according to you?
Yeah, it seems like Ravi, you picked up all the topics which are really close to my heart because going way back almost 26, 27 years, this was the topic of my dissertation during my MBA.
Oh wow,
Yeah, so you can imagine, like way back, this was something that I was talking about. And then interestingly, a lot of experiences have happened over the years, meeting with different kind of types of leaders, different mindset and views that people have held.
sure.
Uh, People see this topic itself very differently with very, very different lenses and different mindsets.
Mhm,
Um, but yeah, I think it cannot be negated that we do have those different dimensions of life.
mhm,
So the first and foremost thing is for one to be able to really define what are those key priorities in my life that I want to pay my attention, energy, time, and resources to. I
sure.
want to leverage all of that in the service of those.
Mhm,
Now, that also may change with every phase of life and with certain things going on around us.
right.
Yeah. Uh, in fact, I had made a LinkedIn post today itself saying that integration or balance or whatever we may call it with, we need to define it first. And second, we need to be open towards keeping it flexible, keeping it emergent,
Right. Yeah.
knowing that the world is so emergent in today's time.
Mhm,
So now, whether it is career, relationships, family, finances, health, and
mhm,
the likes that we talk about, personal growth. Now, what are those dimensions that are really critical? And like I said, we may have a subset of these which become important at different phases of life. The definition of these also may change in
mhm,
certain ways as we move along with life, and for different people, it may be different. So, first is that we define it, second is that we stay emergent. If I'm not able to exercise for an hour today, can I still be maybe doing a 30-minute walk? If
mhm,
I cannot do maybe go to the gym, then maybe I can just do a 15-30 minute walk maybe with my family member or with a colleague or somebody else. If
mhm.
I'm not able to meditate for 60 minutes today, can I just sit in silence for 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So adapting and changing, becoming fixed in one place that, oh no, this is how it needs to happen, may take away from the effectiveness, may make it so rigid that
Yeah.
instead of being a balance, it is like freezing me in place. And I
Yes.
also mentioned that life is dynamic.
Mhm.
Life, the essence of life itself is that it is dynamic, it is moving, it is changing.
Yes.
If we try to define it in a very fixed manner,
Mm.
then it may really not do justice to what life itself is about.
Yeah.
So, only thing which is static in life, or let's say static in human life, is death, or
Absolutely.
things which are not living.
Sure.
So, this integration is much more dynamic in nature, and that's what we must understand and also respect when we are trying to achieve that integration, if we call
Mhm.
it that.
Sure. Great. Great answer for that. Thank you, Rahul. Uh, Again, looking at purpose-driven leadership in the modern world, one of the last questions is that how can leaders align their personal values with organization goals to foster a sense of purpose and drive meaningful impact in today's rapidly evolving business landscape, Rahul?
Ravi, so I don't know if I'm in the hot chair today or what. So I'm kind of almost a mercenary, you can say, on this one, the
Right.
way I have lived my life. And while I can speak from how I have lived my life, now is it the same example that can urge others to follow or not? I don't know. But I think that's something which each person has to define for oneself.
Yes.
And again, for me, going back those 26, 27 years, it was clearly a sense of purpose which had driven me to do my master's in HR and OD. It
Mm-hmm.
was also my sense of purpose which had made me step out of my first corporate job within 1.5 years' time
Mm-hmm.
and move into the space of consulting, leadership development, and organizational development,
Mm-hmm.
as well as teaching karate. So, what purpose I had defined for myself was about making a positive impact in the lives of people and that of organizations
Mm-hmm.
through learning and change.
Mm-hmm.
And when I reflect back, I think these 23 plus years, I have stayed true to that purpose all along.
Yes.
Whenever I've revisited it and evaluated, as I said, do I need to bring a change? Has it changed? I find it still myself still gravitating towards that purpose I had defined,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a common thread through both my consulting and that side of my career as well as through teaching karate. So karate was never about winning competitions or fights and such kind of stuff. It
Mm.
was about how my teaching can impact lives of people.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the first port of call, that deep down within, what is it that you believe in? Deep down within, what do you stand for? What is your identity?
Mm.
And like Dr. Viktor Frankl had said so many years ago, if everything else is taken away from you, how would you still choose to behave? That freedom is still available with you.
Yeah.
And that is what the values are about.
Mm.
Yeah. How would you choose to behave irrespective of whatever might be happening outside?
Yeah.
And I would say that largely speaking, that's how I've tried to live my life, that whatever may be happening outside, injustice, decision taken unfairly against me,
Mm.
etc., etc., I've still lived up to living with the values that I personally believe in.
Absolutely. Yes.
So only if we are that clear within ourselves, can we then be looking at, okay, what's outside of me? What
Yes.
is the organization and the world really wanting from me?
Yes.
And do I find congruence? And many a times it may be that people do not find that congruence. They
Yes.
will need to stay on. And honestly speaking, I also did so because the family situation was such that I stayed in a
Mm.
given role for some time, stressed myself also,
Mm.
uh, did that. But I knew that it's only momentary, it's only for a little while.
Right.
And it's going to be the same for others also, that the stretch is going to be sustainable only till a given point in time. And beyond that, then the inner call is going to be so strong
Mm.
that you would just want to make a change, move on, and bring that congruence between what's within and what's outside.
Absolutely.
So, so if we are looking at the latter part of the question, in today's rapidly evolving business landscape, yeah,
Mm.
we can't change or we can't control what is on the outside.
Yes.
But if I have that clarity within, then I know that, okay, what is the congruence I'm seeking between what's within and what's outside.
Absolutely.
So that's my perspective around this question, Ravi.
Sure. Sure, Rahul. I think what I really love about you, Rahul, personally, is the fact that, I mean, we keep talking about, leaders keep talking about having a passion outside the core area. So I'm into leadership development. I'm basically an operations guy. But we always recommend people to have an habit outside your work area. So I think you've been having,
Yeah,
you learn karate, you've actually been teaching karate all through what, 30, 31 years, apart from having a corporate career and the coaching career that you're actually doing right now, which is really wonderful. I mean, live example of someone who's pursued a passion for over what, 30, 31 years. At the same time, you can actually see the kind of influence it would have had on you and others as well. And the success that you had across the board because of the kind of habit you have been able to sustain, Rahul. So what do you have? What do you say about that?
absolutely, Ravi. And thank you for those kind words because, um, yeah, in a given way, it's a tough journey to live because the work environment, work culture, mindsets that we typically have at work are not as flexible towards, at least in the early years. Maybe it has changed over the last couple of years, but in the early years, it was not as flexible towards having somebody have multiple pursuits. And I believe that quote is also there, that a fox chasing two rabbits gets none.
Yes.
Sometimes I reflect back and think that, oh, has my story been along those lines? But I think what's also true is I go a long way back to my school when my director at school, late Shri M.N. Kapoor, and what a visionary he was. He was also the first Padma Shri recipient in the field of education.
Mm, mm,
So he used to say in our long assemblies, instead of a 15-minute assembly, we used to have those 3-hour assemblies. The class is disrupted.
mm,
We used to like really be pained back then, but now we cherish those memories that, oh, our
mm.
education happened in those assemblies.
Right.
And one of the messages that he used to give was that uh, even if you are, let's say, struggling with your studies, your academics, or maybe struggling in a different space, have one thing that you are really exceptional at. And the other one should always serve as a backup.
Right.
So if you're great at theater, be great at theater,
Mm,
but do ensure that you're doing okay in your studies. It's not that you're completely flunking and not able to clear your academics at all.
yeah.
Similarly, if you're into sports, if you're into something else, then have a combination of both. If you're
Mm,
great in academics, excellent. But
mm.
let not academics be the only thing that you do. Do have something as a backup as well.
Excellent.
Somewhere that message stayed in my mind.
Mm, mm.
So that was one, and this is something I mentioned in the book as well. Perhaps it has been my mother's influence as well because she chose at the age of 8 that she wanted to be a designer, a creative designer for the next 50, 55 years. That's what she lived then, being a
Wow.
creative designer. Never looked back, never even thought again that, oh, am I doing the right thing or not? Because she was so sure and so clear.
Mm,
So I think somewhere that influence was very strong in my life in terms of adopting an art form. Of course, this is it's a physical art form which is different from the other, but it's still an art form
absolutely.
in terms of the impact it has, in terms of the kind of development it enables you to go through.
Absolutely.
Uh, so these two very strong influences in my life have been instrumental in me following this dual path. One is, of course, on the consulting and the professional side, and the second is teaching karate.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, there are, I don't know how many experiences, stories, and memories that I can bring forth in terms of
Yeah.
how fulfilling these two have been and
Mm,
how meaningful and impactful these have been in terms of the difference I've been able to create in other people's lives, the impact that I've been able to create in other people's lives.
I think that's another book which should be coming after this, I guess. Absolutely. We'll look forward to because a lot of experience, right? Real time stories are anyway, people love it.
This one also is full of those stories in terms of, okay, those were the experiences, what were my interactions, and the impact that was created in people's lives. And hence, how does that then inform leadership? Because martial arts, yes, one can talk about techniques and maybe certain such stuff, but I'm not talking as much about just those. I'm talking much more about the real experiences that happened with me and my students in the classroom. So,
Absolutely.
and those experiences, then how do they inform leadership and the practice of leadership?
Sure.
That's what the book is about. But yeah, you're right in saying I've not planned it yet, but who knows? There should be the next one.
I'll take the credit for that. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yes, of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rahul. I think it's a great podcast today. I think very practical. If you really look at it, I think the way you were answering the questions was the scenarios you actually have went through and the kind of experiences you went through and the people who were trained both ways, one on karate as well as from the consulting side. I think we did touch on the three themes today. We spoke about how to strengthen leadership development. Uh, we actually had a look at holistic leadership, integrating work, life, and purpose. We looked at building future ready organizations through learning and development as such, Rahul. So thanks a lot. We spent maybe 30, 35 minutes this time, but I think maybe once the book is out or maybe once you start writing the next one, well, I'll come back again with another request so that we can go through a summary of the blurb, as they say, right, for the book, Rahul. Thanks a lot for spending so much time today on this podcast.
Absolutely right. We'll be looking forward to that. And it was wonderful having this conversation today. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, sir.